and then get education on rent issues and land issues. Thank you so much. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Odilia, and thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you so much. We are always, our doors, is always open to you. All right. So let's go straight on point. Section 17 in the Act of Ghana, what does it talk about?
Okay. So, the rent control is being governed by two laws. Okay. We have the Rent Act 1963, that's the Act 220, and then the Rent Control, that's the Rent Law 1986. Okay, and then as you rightly said, the Section 17 is Part 4 of the Rent Act, that is the Act 220, and it talks about recovery of possession or ejectment.
Okay.
So all the section, Section 17, which is a tall list of subsections, talks about how a landlord can follow, or what a landlord can follow up to recover possession or eject a tenant from the premises. But you do this in conjunction with the rent control department.
You cannot do it on your own. You yourself
cannot just say that, no, a tenant has contravened the law, or the tenant has done something in my house, so I'm using force to pack his things out. No matter what offensive the landlord, the tenant has been, you first have to report to the rent control department. Or you can go to the magistrate, which we call the judges in the district courts, and report that case, where an investigation will be done before the magistrate or the rent control officer, in conjunction with the magistrate, will aid you to evict that person. So if you will go into details, the first subsection of Section 17 of the Rent Act talks about somebody who has not paid you your rent. It's an offense. So when you look at A of the 1A of Section 17, it talks about where an rent or where any rent lawfully due from the tenant has not been paid or tendered within 1 month after the date on which it became lawfully due. So we've agreed that you pay your monthly rent, or you pay in blocks, 6 months in blocks. But after 1 month, you've not paid your rent, and you've not discussed that issue with the landlord. This constitutes an offense. So in this case, the landlord has right to file an application at the rent control department for us to do investigation, and if it's duly right that the tenant has not paid his monthly rent, or he has not paid the month's rent in that seed, and he has not discussed the issue with you, it's automatic that the person has to evict from the premises. Then you look at B, that's Section 17 1B. It talks about where any obligation of the tenancy other than that specified in A, which is the unlawful paying of the rent, so far as so obligation is constituted with the provision of this act, has broken or has been broken or not performed. So we've signed a tenancy agreement that this is the direction we are going. But you, the tenant, you contravene that tenancy agreement that we've all signed, witness has been on it, then you contravene that. The landlord has to prove that you contravene that tenancy agreement. So you'll be reported to the rent control department or the magistrate, and then an investigation will be done equally. And if it's true that the tenant has contravened the tenancy agreement that we all agreed on, we'll just follow suit, and then tenant must be evicted. I'm stressing this because a lot of tenants takes the law into their own hands. That the tenant is owing me 2 months, 6 months, so I'm packing his things out. Or we sign tenancy agreement that such a person should do this, do that, and he's not doing it. So automatically have to pack his things out. If you, the landlord, do that, of course, you also contravene the law, of which the tenant has right to report you at the police station for you to be prosecuted before you can look at the offense that the tenant has committed. So we move on to Section 17 1C. And it talks about where the tenant or any person residing with him has been guilty of conduct which is nuisance or an annoyance to adjoining occupants. So the action word is the person has been convicted or the person has been found guilty. So you see the person is causing nuisance, the person is causing annoyance. But in that case, a judge must proclaim that person guilty before the person can be evicted. So you cannot say the person is making noise in my house. So in the following day, I have to pack his things out. You have to report to, again, the rent control department. We follow up to the magistrate for the magistrate to prove or to proclaim that person guilty. If after investigation the person is not guilty, you don't have any right to stand on this to evict the person or to recover possession from that person.
Okay.
And then we move on to D. It says where the tenant or any person residing with him has been convicted of using the premises or allowing the premises to be used for an immoral and illegal purposes. So the person, the person is using the place for shower, prostitution.
No, we call it area code.
Okay.
Area code.
Exactly. And the person is selling drugs in your premises.
That is against the law.
Against the law. But you don't have that right to proclaim somebody guilty. It's only the judge. So in all these circumstances, you have to report for the person to be prosecuted. If the person is prosecuted, now you have the power to evict the person or to recover possession. Then we move to E, that is section 17(1)(e), which talks about where the condition of the premises, as in the opinion of such magistrate or judge, deteriorated owing to the act of waste by or the neglect or default or the tenant or any person residing within. This simply means that you've built a nice house, you've rented it out. In your opinion, the person is deteriorating the premises.
The place.
Is using the place roughly. So
maybe it's pumping fufu from the top floor.
And then your building is about to collapse. In all this, you have to report. Okay? Where they say, in the opinion of such magistrate or judge. So you can report that your place is being deteriorated. But if in the opinion of the magistrate or the judge, it says that no, this does not constitute deterioration, then you don't have a case. But in the opinion of the magistrate or the judge, if he says that no, your place is being deteriorated, then they can stamp it on for you to evict the person or recover possession.
Mr. Emmanuel, let me not cut you, but kindly join us on social media, Facebook, Odansini Odilia, my CTVGH. On Facebook, kindly like and follow as well so that you join the discussion. Put your questions below the comment section, hashtag Odansini Odilia, hashtag Siwudine, and then share to everybody so that everybody can get an enlightenment on rent issue, the section 17 in the Rent Act in Ghana. Get more enlightenment. I told you, use this opportunity. This show is a 1-hour show. Get all the education that you need so that you don't fall prey or a victim to any other activity that has to do with land, rentals, and everything in the real estate industry. Simon, let's continue.
Yes. So we continue with F. So section 17(1)(f).
On F.
Which talks about where the tenant has given notice of his intention to quit in writing. And in circumstance of such notice, the landlord has contracted to sell or let the premises or has taken any other steps as a result of which he would, in the opinion of such magistrate or judge, be seriously in prejudice if he could not obtain such possession. So we sign an agreement. Your time has not reached. You've given me a written notice. It's not a verbal notice.
A written notice.
So you, the landlord, must prove that the tenant has given you a written notice that I'm vacating at this time.
Okay.
So based on that written notice, you've also, because the business you are doing, you've also contracted somebody to sell the property or to rent it out to somebody.
Okay.
So if the time reaches and the tenant comes that no, I've changed my mind, then you have the opportunity or the right to tender this written notice of the tenant asking that he wants to quit at this particular to the rent control department or the magistrate.
Okay.
And then the magistrate will look at it and see if we don't grant you that request because you've contracted somebody You've taken money from somebody that you want to rent the place out based on the notice that you were given.
And now you want to sell the place.
The tenant wants to change his mind. The person who has paid the money to the landlord now will be putting pressure on the landlord based on that request. So if you have to prove, you need to prove to the landlord that if you don't grant me this permission for me to give the land or the premises to the other person who has paid me extra money, it's going to cause serious damage to my reputation. Then the judge will look at it, or the rent control department will look at it, and then grant you that permission. Okay. And then we go to G. G is where the premises are reasonably required by the landlord for personal occupation as a dwelling house by himself, a member of his family, or any person in his own time employment. Okay. So, again, you've rented the place out, but seriously, you need the place out for yourself or your family member because
it's coming in, is moving in.
Yes, exactly, because where they are or where their situation now is very serious. But in such case, the judge or the rent control department will weigh the inconvenience of your family member or even yourself coming to stay in your premises over the tenant who is there.
That you collected money.
You collected money. And look at the seriousness. If we evict the tenant, what will be the consequences? And if we don't allow you to come and stay in your premises, what will be the consequences? So we'll weigh and see which one will be overweigh the other. If evicting the tenant will overweigh yours, then you'll be given an option to go and get an alternative accommodation, being the property owner, and then we allow the tenant to stay up to the end of his tenancy or a tenancy. But if we wait and we see that you, the landlord or family member, if we don't grant you that permission, considering the tenant's own, which is minimal, and yours is major, then the tenant will be given the time to vacate the premises and go and occupy it or get another accommodation.
Okay.
And then, so these are some of the sections that we have under the section 17. Okay. There's another section, another subsection, which section 1H, where it talks about where the lease has expired and the premises is reasonably required by the landlord to be used by him for his own business purposes. Okay, so we're giving you the premises. You are using it for business. Your time has reached. You know, when your time reach and then it will renew the tenancy for you again, you become what we call statutory tenant. That statutory tenant is like somebody you cannot touch. But in such circumstances where the landlord needs the premises for his own business, of course, a notice will be given to you.
The person who is living on behalf of the person who has already rented.
Yes, so you, the tenant occupying the place already, your term has elapsed, but there is no notice for you to renew or to vacate. In that circumstance, the landlord is supposed to give you notice that he's coming to use the place for his own business purposes. In this case, the law is specific that because it's a business venture, the landlord must give you a 6 months written notice.
So within all these 6 months, are you entitled to pay as a tenant or it is for free? Okay. So under section 31, which is beyond section 17 now, it says that nothing should prevent the landlord from collecting its rent. Okay. Okay. So this means that there's no free rent in Ghana. Okay. So no matter how long they will give you, any landlord will give you to occupy his or premises, you are mandated to pay. So that is when the rent card comes in. Okay, so monthly. Yes, exactly. If it's monthly or the tenancy agreement is there, you are supposed to pay that rent. So no matter, so it means that there's no free rent. Even if it's domestic or a dwelling place. Or if it is a pata. A pata. So far as he has given you for rent, the law says that you must pay for it. Okay. So there's no free rent. Okay. Okay. Then we go to I, where it says that where the premises were let to a tenant by reason for his employment in the services of the landlord, then such employments are seized. So I'm a manager or a business owner. I've employed you to come and work for me. And based on that, based on some of the conditions, I've given you some place to lay your head. Okay. Now that our contract has terminated, of course,
the premises I've given you, myself, because I gave you on the condition that you are working for me. Now you are no more working for me. So of course you have to move so that any other person I'm employing
can move in.
Can now dwell in that premises.
So in this case, your contract has ended in October.
Yes.
October 2023.
Yes, exactly.
And the last day of October is let's say 30th.
Yeah.
And I stay in the apartment or the room November 1st till November middle.
Okay.
Is the company supposed to write an invoice to me to pay?
Okay. So in this case, is the landlord who is the employer.
Okay.
And the tenant is the employee.
The employee.
Okay. So we know that I'm terminating your
contract
employment by 1st of November, for instance, or by the end of October. So before your tenancy or I terminate our employment, we have given you a notice that your contract is ending by the end of October. So your tenancy, as I've given you, is also ending at the end of October. So just that the date your employment is terminated,
you have to move.
Vacate
so what if the person does not move? Can the
so that's
company report them to rent control?
Yes, so the landlord vis-a-vis the employer should report the case to the rent control department or the magistrate, and they will aid the eviction of the tenant from the premises.
Okay.
Then we move to K. It said, where the landlord was personally in the occupation of the premises and has left the premises substantially finished for a term during its absence from Ghana or that area of Ghana in which the premises were situated and has returned and required the reoccupation of the premises for himself. So, however, that no order granted for the permission of the ejectment from the premises shall be granted or after the commencement of this act. So basically what this means is that you've rented the premises out, being finished or unfinished. You've traveled outside Ghana, or let's assume you are in Accra, you've traveled to Kumasi for a business or for a contract. And now you are coming back. So you coming back, you want to occupy your premises.
Okay.
So in that case, whilst you are there, you give the tenant notice that I'm coming on this date. The tenant on that date must vacate the premises. If the tenant does not vacate again, you have to report to the case to the appropriate department or the court for us to aid the eviction of the premises. So basically, this is the whole of
Section 17,
which talks about the process you have to follow to evict or recover possession from the premises. In all those subsections I've stated, there's no word that the landlord has been given power to forcefully eject any tenant from his or her premises. So the illegality that is going on, that your time has elapsed, you are owing me, I'm coming to occupy my premises, my family member is coming, to force a tenant out of your premises is illegal. And I'm empowering any tenant that if something happens, that your light is cut, your roofing is removed, your pipe is cut, that you don't have access, you, the tenant, has right to come to the rent control department or first report to the police. We want to shade away or remove this illegality. Because you see here in the radio,
a lot of issues.
Landlord has taken a gun, shooting a tenant because the tenancy has expired or the tenant is owing us. Let's all follow due process. Okay, so that we leave our money in the country.
Thank you so much. Your questions and answers are welcome. Production team, let's put the phone lines there so that those who are who have questions to ask can be able to ask their questions peacefully. Hello, Odansini Odilia. Thank you so much for this education. I was in a rented store and doing my business, and then my rent was due, but I wasn't using the place because I was not feeling fine. So the landlord took out my things and said the period in which my items were in the shop, I must pay for the rent. And now he has taken the items in the shop, calculated, and then giving him a bill based on the maintenance that he's supposed to do. But around that time, he wasn't feeling fine. What should the tenant do? Okay.
So, you know, anytime a tenant should vacate the premises, there should be an inspection. Okay? And before you, the landlord will go and open, we call it abscondent tenant. Let me explain quickly. Okay. Abscondent tenant is somebody who has run away from your premises without giving you back your key.
But here is the case where he wasn't feeling fine.
Yes, I'm explaining that. I will come back to that. So that's abscondent. So in that case, before you open that place, you must get an order from the magistrate through the rent control department. But if the person is not feeling fine, you should get a representative of that person to go and inspect the place whilst you were, if the person had given you the authority to go and open the place. Okay. So that you see what is damaged there. But you, the landlord alone, cannot go and open the place and then come back that, you know, when I open the place, this and this have spoiled. Okay. In that case, the tenant has right to take you on.
All right. Okay. I happen to have my first caller on the line. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please, how are you doing?
I'm fine, sir.
Please, your name and where you are calling from. Please, I'm a lady.
Sorry.
Okay.
My name is Akwete Mate.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Akwete, let's hear you.
In fact, I want to speak to you.
Please go ahead. Feel free.
All right. But but
juju. But what evidence?
Yes, I have evidence.
Okay.
Hey. But later me who say sent me some juju nyama say na mu say na mu ya juju nyama no. Na me who say e ho na me me ba me mo mo won. December or January no omo time asu. But because of the juju say na mo kanu dia me kiasi, but because of the juju mo ya no me person be say obi be dan how be sometimes tenant for no omo be hide dan no omo ha adwen. When they come to the office there, they didn't speak the truth. Muha been very serious. Imagine say me the guy how be no or you do what me them. So when you are me see me with the bar and I'm the bar control. And you them the come say still I am tenant in China then anymore na.
Okay. Mr. Emmanuel Bema obeyi wa no ewo ho why enti to aswa na hwe CTV. Now CTV so let me use this opportunity to announce to you CTV is on my Go TV channel 21. CTV is live on my Go TV channel 21. So those of you who are not able to access CTV on your normal digital platform can go to Go TV and then channel 21. We are live and call it there. Hello, good evening. My second caller. Hello. All right, before the second caller comes in, the phone lines are open. Take the opportunity to call us and access any question that you want to access. Or send us a WhatsApp with the WhatsApp number below the screen, 0246187825. Also, don't forget to go to Facebook, share, like, and follow. Tag somebody. Section 17 of the Rent Act of Ghana. That is what we are talking about today.
No, Mr. Akwete, you know why you gamoni? Okay. Odilia, what is happening is, you know, this has been covered under Section 17(1) B. Okay. Where it talks about where any obligation of the tenancy. It is a more passe a juma way na me ya. And no namudia share mu tenancy agreement no more. Sir. It is a mudia share mu tenancy agreement not tenant 2 year at the full fraud dia. And it say over report to send your car, you know. It's all report to my rent control. Now you investigate say agreement ben or more bano mushi share na dear na all yes is here. It is or yeah be before apart from nyamushi share or tenancy agreement to any section no or say bet me adinaso. No more facilitated say on free.
So you should come to rent control so that you guys will help him. Exactly. All right, thank you so much. We are live and colored on Facebook. Eja Ben is watching us live from Kaswa Ion City. My second caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Please, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm good.
Please let us know where you are calling from and your name.
Yes, I'm calling from Maxwell.
Okay, let's hear you.
Please, can I speak?
Hello, Maxwell.
Yes, please, can I speak now?
Yes, please go on. Let's hear you.
Okay. Nemo for only for 2 years.
Ofane owie mo sane fake clear bibio ha wo ofane.
Ofane the current for 3 years. Almost 8 months ago. Centrally, the Baba, if you like people to what people like off. Maybe an excellent police reference to years agreement centrally. If you wonder, centrally, centrally, you want to say, just agreement
Okay. Okay. Ofane, thank you so much for calling us. You're going to answer your question for you, right? Thank you so much. All right. Kindly send us a message on Facebook as well if you're unable to connect to us on the telephone or WhatsApp so that we can be able to answer any question that you have. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Okay, we've lost him there. Please kindly call us again. Let's hear the questions that you have for us. Mr. Emmanuel.
So, Odilia, this is the abscondant issue I was trying to elaborate on. But, Maxwell,
I think we have another caller again. Let's pick another caller. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please, how are you doing?
Thank you, madam.
Please, your name and where you are calling us from.
I'm calling from Media.
Okay, let's hear you, Media.
Madam, truly, the institution which doesn't just work in this country is this our rent control. They always make this kind of landlords always getting people 1 year, 2 years, what and what. Always you can stay in a house for almost about getting 10 years. Always 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, and you can't. There's nobody to defend you.
Okay.
If you tell to run commission, Kokachiro will say, and you're going to talk cement money, and you're going to talk blocks money. Kokachiro land commission. If you go to the people that will talk to you, then they say, that's how we will take it. Kokachiro will say, and you're going to talk as money, and you're going to talk cement money.
Okay.
So the rent commission is just useless. They are not helping us in this country at all.
Have you yourself been at rent control before?
If you even go there, they will tell you, and also when you're not top block money.
Hello, Mr. Mahama. Have you yourself been at rent control before?
Well, as I'm called rent control.
Rent control.
They said 2 months, 2 years rent. I pay for about consecutively for almost 10 years.
Okay. So, all right, thank you so much, Mahama. Your point is well noted. I can see you have bitterness from paying rent for 1 year in advance, 2 years in advance. But, Mr. Ahmad, the question I would like to ask you is that when the landlord asks you to pay, you paid. So you have also defaulted. Also, what camera? Anna meboa. Emra no so wa boa ma emra no enye adwuma. Landlord na situa mentua. Rent control so be boa. I'm sure say achia so emu here. The system is a bit hot. It's not stable, but by and by we are getting there. All right? Thank you so much for calling us. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Please, your name and where you are calling us from.
I'm calling from Kumasi.
Okay, let's hear you.
Okay, the patcho, Mr. say this year. Well, you sit down about you're having 2 years now, and now it's what is 1,890 something. Which 2 years do was make 3,500.
Hey.
And yes, I know what they will be to them when I say, oh, to no dear, oh, to my young 2 booms are. If you want to say, no, young, Kayan or test, no, dear 2,600.
Okay.
Ye cheer, or buy so a house in the sounds of be my, you bet you have 4,500. 4,500 they are not doing.
No, landlord, Nenia Bresso or do by a bank power.
Is I just over here, and you know, over for ways and means just all the good here. If you know where food na your door, and nonsense is sure to stop. wasan ba na afu no se hefu mundo ene yesi atinti ando bi ba sa ye boadru nti ye boadru no oba bete wo se waka se yendo ya ando na yesi ya boadru ade chie no abole tabre ni o fi o nyina se yentu o ma ye 2 months obi yentu ena me me ka je ne se mintu dia me na o na o mintu menya ma je mintu mini scam de ko ha den ti o fa me 2600 na me tua ye no Oko ma dey mina hye me nsem na me kokko ha da ne patcho no man kan ya na.
Okay, me patcho Mr. Emmanuel be you no e wo ho me da se bebre say wo frɛ ye. I kindly send us a WhatsApp. Let's add you to the group. The group discussions no problems no. Ebia after we there's another problem na ebia unhu the way abesi ebisa question na ye create platform WhatsApp inti kindly send us a hi. Let's add you to the group WhatsApp. Send a bear question be will be concerning rent or land. You can be able to get answers. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. My name is Alasan Baba.
Good. Your name and where you are calling us from?
I'm calling from La Paz. My name is Alasan.
Alasan, let's hear you.
I want to ask the man there.
Okay.
If in case you are living in a house and your rent is due, they have anything like you have to stay inside for 3 months before you can leave the house or what? Is there anything like that?
Okay. Did you join us from the beginning of the program?
No, madam, sir. No, madam, I didn't join it.
Please, do you have Facebook?
Yeah, I have Facebook, yeah.
Okay. In a case where we are not able to answer, I think we discussed that at the beginning of the show. And are you aware about this very show?
Okay, actually, I just came in and I was...
Okay. So every Sunday, kindly put your your TV here, so that you can be able to listen to some of these discussions. Because sometimes the questions you might ask, we would have answered it from the beginning of the show. And because of time factor, we cannot be able to answer your question because there are other trivial questions that we need to answer, right?
Okay.
So always make it a point to make it on time. Be behind your TV set, and then make sure that as soon as we roll the montage, you watch and then you ask any question. But you can as well send us a WhatsApp message or follow our social media handles, Odansini Odilia. Send any message concerning any problem that you are having, and we'll be able to get to you, right? Thank you so much for calling us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll pick other 3 calls, and then we answer the questions if we have. All right, let me leave this question for you, Mr. Emmanuel, whilst we are waiting for a caller to come before we start answering if the tenant and the landlord did not sign any written documents, can the law still take effect if one of them breaches the verbal agreement? I am suspecting I have a caller. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. 3 more calls and then we are done. All right, if I don't have any caller, let's drop the calls for this evening. The rest of you can send us WhatsApp with the WhatsApp number below the screens. Let's cut the calls and then let's continue on WhatsApp, and then we can get to answer everybody's question. Okay. All right. If the tenant, let me give you this question first because he sent his message around 4:22, so I'm sure he sent his own earlier. If the tenant and the landlord did not sign any agreement, can the law still take effect if any of them bridges the agreement?
Okay, Midebeka, I will add it to the questions. I want to start from Maxwell's issue. Maxwell can call at the end of the show. I'll give a number. Maxwell can call so that we can assist him to how he can get his abscondent tenant back.
Yeah.
And then the issue about the 2 years rent advance that my friend was complaining about. You know, we don't have one voice of tenant. Whilst we are negotiating for 6 months, your colleague tenant is standing behind you, negotiating for 2 years.
Yeah.
So that is just the question you asked him. When the landlord demanded it, did you report?
Did you report?
You've gone ahead to pay, and now you turn back to complain about it. So if we stand on our right, that I will not pay more than 6 months, and your colleague tenant said, no, I will not pay more than 6 months, then the law will have effect because rent control will not be there once you were negotiating. The issue there is that if the landlord is there and you bring 2 years rent advance, the landlord has not committed any offense. But where the landlord demands that my house there, I take more than 6 months, I take 2 years, you have evidence, you can report to the rent control department or go to the magistrate and report such landlord so that the landlord will be sanctioned. Yeah, talks about increment in rent, of which the landlord want to evict them because they don't want to continue to pay for that illegal increment.
Yeah.
The issue there is that the landlord has no right to increase rent every 6 months or every year. You, the tenant, also have right to come to the rent control department and apply for what we call assessment. That assessment will come and look at the premises and come out with a realistic rent that you have to pay. So you can you can take advantage of this opportunity, this right that you have, and apply for this assessment, and then we come out with the realistic rent that you can pay. The issue about 3 months grace period, there is nothing in our laws. If your time is up, your time is up. We made an example of ending of October. You've been given the time that your time will elapse at the end of October. At that time, you have to vacate. There's no law there that you have to be given extra 3 months, and that 3 months must also be free. There's nothing like that.
Nothing like
when
free.
Your time is up, your time is up. You can renegotiate with the landlord, but if the landlord disagree with you, then you have to
do about it
from the premises. And then the issue about if there is no written agreement. Of course, since there is no written agreement, the law requires that any tenancy agreement must be written. But in case there is no written agreement, you, the tenant or the landlord, still have the right to come to the rent control department and then file a complaint where we can do investigation. But we are currently doing digitization of our department. And in that case, all landlords will be mandated to register a written tenancy agreement. And you, the tenant, has right to demand that from the landlord. If you don't demand
the one that is in your system.
Yes, we will come out with a format or a template or what we call a standardized tenancy agreement, of which every tenant, every landlord must copy and then sign with the tenant. Then you register it with us. In that case, you, the tenant, has right to demand that. If you don't do that for a period, a specific period, and something happens, you'll be denying the right to file a complaint at the rent control department. And then you, the landlord, will also do not have that right. Of course, if you give you that right, it will be sanctioned. You will pay a penalty for not registering your tenancy agreement within the specified period that you are supposed to do. But for current situations, even if you don't have a written tenancy agreement, you can still file your case being a tenant or a landlord at the rent control department.
Thank you. So our questions, we have answered everything. So we just take the opportunity to give those of you who couldn't call in to call in just 5 minutes to phone in for us, and then we can be able to take your answers again. I would always say that please make it a point as soon as we sit here, the topic that we are discussing, kindly make a point and then join us as early as possible so that your questions can be answered well for you. So the phone lines are in just 5 minutes. We'll take 3 calls and then we'll answer them, and then we'll get back to our discussion in the studio and then wrap up for the evening. If I have any caller, if the tenant fails to pay utility bill for about 1.5 years and still gives excuses, can you arrest the tenant for that or evacuate her from the room?
Okay, so the issue is that within 1 month, you should try to solve your problems. If after 1 month, you should not give the tenant that long period. Otherwise, one day before you wake up from bed, he has packed his things and he has run away with your money. So after 1 month, he has not paid, you just report the person. This is part of causing nuisance and annoyance. Because if he's not paying and it's a compounder, because of him, the whole house will go off of electricity or water. And this is a causing of nuisance and annoyance. So you report for investigation to be done so that it can be eliminated from the house or it can be forced to pay the utility so that you continue with your tenancy with the person.
All right, do I have my first caller again on the second session? Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Please, your name and where you are calling us from?
Alexander, calling from Anya.
Calling from where, Anya?
Yes, please.
All right, let's hear you, Alexander.
I did want to make some inquiry.
Okay.
You know, some people demand for 3 months deposit when
yes.
you rent.
Yes.
Is it legal to demand for 3 months deposit from a tenant?
Okay, all right. Mr. Kwasu will answer that question for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us on this very show. Thank you. You're still watching Siwudine live on CTV. My name is Odansini Odilia. 2 more calls or 1 more call, and then we answer the questions. And then we talk about 9th December, which I'm so happy and excited about. All right, those of you who are calling the WhatsApp lines, please do well not to call the WhatsApp line. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I foresee you are closer to your TV set. Can you draw yourself a bit far away from the TV set for us?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, madam. How are you?
Please, I'm fine, thank you.
Your name and where you are calling us from?
Okay, please, I'm calling from Kofaridia.
Kofaridia, let's hear you.
And please, I wanted to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
In a situation whereby a tenant paid a rent, but in this case, the tenants have been paid the rent for about a month ago, but the place is still not ready. And the tenant is requesting for the money. The landlord is not ready to pay the money. So can the person go to a rent control to complain?
Okay, Mr. Emmanuel will answer that for you. Thank you so much for calling us. And then stay tuned to CTV and then watch Siwudine on CTV as well. Thank you so much. All right, those of you who are calling us, kindly don't forget to follow our social media handles, Odansini Odilia, on Instagram and Facebook. Last caller, and then I wrap up the calls for the second segment as well. Hello, good evening. Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, let's hear you. Your name and where you're calling from us from.
Please, Ubaidu. I'm calling from Fabric.
Okay, let's hear you.
Please, actually, there are some tenants in my dad's house. There are 2 neighbors. Right now, they are fighting.
The tenants in the house are fighting?
No, the 2 tenants, those who my father has rented a room for them. 2 of them are fighting. Yeah, but so now there's one lady who does not work in the house again. She doesn't sweep, she doesn't clean the toilet, she just stays in the house. So in that case, like there's no maybe can't you report them to the rent control or maybe punishment or they being sacked.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel is here. He will answer that question for you. Is that okay? Thank you so much for calling us. And then we drop the calls for this very section. So we wrap up and then draw the curtains for this evening.
Exactly. Okay. So we start from my list, talking about security deposit.
Yeah,
but I want to add a goodwill fee.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, the 1963 Act didn't talk about it. So currently it's illegal. But what we are doing now is we are now reviewing the act. It's a good practice that people have employed into our country. And it makes the tenant very conscious that if your money is somewhere...
The security deposit.
Exactly. If your money is somewhere, you take care of somebody.
Last week we even spoke about it.
Exactly. So what we are doing, we've included it to the bill that we are going to pass now, so that it will be legal. But currently it's illegal.
Okay.
And of course, the goodwill goodwill fee, which people are also charging, we are going to define it so that it's not everybody who will wake up and say, no, I'm taking a goodwill fee and I'm taking so much security deposit. The law will be specific to how much you have to take as a security deposit and how you utilize that money if the person is a victim.
Okay.
Then we talk about refund of rent advance.
Okay.
You've paid money to somebody, you've not occupied the premises. Of course, you have to get a refund. So the lady can report to the nearest rent control department.
Okay.
And then we will assist the person in collecting his rent advance. And then the last caller, tenant fighting. If the landlord has come in to try and settle them and they are still not adhering to his advice, he can just walk to the rent control department. We invite the tenant and see how we can resolve. Okay. If no solution comes, of course, then they have to evict from the premises for the landlord to have his or a peace. And this is what we call the causing of nuisance and annoyance. You cannot just come and dwell in somebody's premises and be fighting to cause problems for people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Alvin. Rent control is ineffective. What do they have to say? Their visibility is the biggest problem. So I'm sure that you are talking about visibility. That is why you are saying they are ineffective. I'm sure when you have a problem with a landlord and you go and you get your problem solved, you will not say that word again. Even Ghana Police Service, even the armed forces, even the fire service, they are not available to everybody at a particular point in time. If everybody is calling Ghana Police to come to their aid, let's say every house calls Ghana Police to come to their aid, we will not get every policeman for each house. Resources is very scarce. The resources we have is not enough for us as a nation. That is why the government is saying that let's pay our taxes well. Let's pay our taxes effectively so that the government would employ more funds into these resources so that we can be able to get these things at our doorsteps. So as a good citizen, please do us a favor. If you have a problem, walk to rent control, walk to Ghana Police Service, walk to any of the institutions that we keep talking about. And if it is not effective, you have media houses. That is why a program like Siudain is here. So if you say, I want to rent control, and rent control didn't mind me, and I came to Siudain, and Siudain too didn't mind me, then you have the right to say that rent control is not effective. Do me a favor, as we sit here talking about rent issues, have you been a good citizen by telling somebody around you that, hey, there's a TV program right now on CTV. Tune in and watch. It is about rent issues that they are talking about. Have you done that as a good citizen? This is what the president always talks about. Be a good citizen and not a spectator. But most of the time now, jokes. Jokes. Obia want challenges there, but some of the things that are happening, it is our own fault. This is free airtime. We are talking about rent issues. So if you have a problem, kindly bring it to our doorsteps. That is why we brought this program for you to be able to benefit from it, free of charge. We are coming up with a program on the 9th of December. I'll talk about it, but I'll wait for Mr. Emmanuel to wrap up for us.
Okay. So, Odilia, what is interesting is that apart from the WhatsApp number you've given on your screen,
yes,
they can send their problems and then it will be forwarded to us.
Okay.
But they can also WhatsApp to 027 0121 888. 027 0121 888. Maxwell in particular. You can call that number so that we assist you so that you get your premises back. Since we are talking about recovery of possession and ejectment today. So we are there, just as you said, the last comment you've addressed it. Yes, so we are there for everybody. Report at the rent control department. If nothing is being done, then you can come on air and then put accusing figures at the department. So I thank you for the opportunity once more.
Thank you so much. My producer is pushing me with this question. It says Kweku from Medina signed an agreement with the tenant in a month. The tenant left the room and went with the keys. Now she is telling us to refund her money to her. When next the tenant comes to stay in the room, what should I do? This is coming from my producer. If I don't give you that question, she'll beat me up.
So you can follow Maxwell's
suit. Okay.
You can call me and then,
so production team, kindly, Mr. Emmanuel will mention the numbers again. Kindly, let's pick the number and then let's quickly let's mention the number again.
So that's 027 0121 888
888 027
0121 888.
Yes. On this opportunity, I would like to ask on behalf of my audience, can I add you to the group so that they can answer the question?
I think
the same number. You're already there. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, because the rent issues are becoming non-becoming, and I want you to benefit from this show. Like I said, we brought up this show not to just come and sit in the studio and talk, but to solve problems. Come on the 9th of December. I literally sent my letter by word of mouth. I'm here to send the letter itself to rent control to help us, because some of you have issues with lands. some of you have issues with lands, I would want you to take the opportunity and come to the Christ the King Parish Hall on the 9th of December. It is on the screen. The event itself is free of charge. It's a conference. We are going to talk about understanding the land system in Ghana. In as much as we are talking about the land issues and the land system in Ghana, we are also going to help you with your rent issues. So anybody who has any rent issue, I am using this opportunity to announce that please come to the Christ the King Parish Hall. Whether rain or shine, whether dark clouds or no dark clouds, I want you to come and then get all your answers. Put a long tail of questions for us. There are going to be lawyers. Lands Commission has just confirmed they are going to be there. And thanks to Madam Eunice, head of PR at the Lands Commission. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. And also greetings to Timothy Anyidoho of the Lands Commission. Please, they are going to be there. Gareb are going to be there. Forever Construction and Consultancy is also giving you a parcel of land for free for coming to the event. So all you need to do is to come early. Take your tickets and enter. After the raffle is drawn, the lucky person wins a parcel of land. I will announce whether it's a full plot or it's a half plot. Ubenya asase. So, mena meya wona nka me ni asase anka menka 9th December anka anopa 2 6 o'clock nka me Christ the King Parish Hall. Esan say ansa na menya asase aton na my age be 5-10 years. I get this gather a lot of money. And you know how the system is. You gather, you get to a stage, pam, something will come. You gather, you get to a stage, landlord will collect his own. If landlord does not collect his own, somebody will intentionally die in the family. You know, it's not the best. Family members say, so use the opportunity and come for the event. It's free of charge. We are not charging anything. We are only taking fees for those coming for consultation. If your questions or your issues are beyond the main seminar, that is when the guests will be there the expert will be there to help you. Just pay a small fee. If you go to a lawyer, he will charge you like 2,000. But if you go and see a lawyer that day, you are going to just pay 200 Ghana cedis. So main conference is free. Take advantage of it. My name is Odansini Odilia, and you watch Siwudine on CTV. We repeat this very program on Saturday at 9 p.m. I remain Odilia, and then my name is Odansini Odilia. Follow me on all the social media handles, Facebook and Instagram. Watch the previous show on Facebook or YouTube, Odansini Odilia. And then any question that you have, let us know, and then any time we can answer you, right? Thank you so much for calling. And thank you so much for those who called. Thank you so much for those who sent that message. And then the people who are supposed to do the WhatsApp, kindly send us a hi. Let's add you to the WhatsApp group so that you can get to answer. Mr. Emmanuel can get to answer any question that you have and then help you out beyond the studio. Thank you so much for watching once again. Stay tuned to CTV, My Go TV, channel 21. Next week, God willing, same time, same day, we'll be here.